Okay, we're looking at where Major League Baseball can improve the London series going forward. Now, obviously, the Yankees beat the Red Sox in both games. The stadium was sold out on both days, so every ticket available went, which is a positive. But there are massive areas of improvement if Major League Baseball is to compete with, especially the NFL, which has had a great success since 2007 in viewership figures on TV. Media coverage as a wider whole, because they've now got the NFL show on BBC as well. So they've now also, not only have they got the London series being shown free to air in this country, they have a highlights package TV show in the regular and post-season as well on a national broadcaster. The NBA has a broadcast agreement with Sky Sports. Now, Sky Sports is a subscription sports network. However, it's been an established sports network in this country for the better part of 30 years. And there's a lot of criticism of Sky, but it's been established for a long time. And so therefore it has an established viewership and subscription fan base. You know, it has its customers, does Sky Sports, who are regular returning customers. There are issues with Sky Sports, but again, established broadcaster gets media rights. The NHL has now sold its media rights here in the UK to Premier Sports, and it did show the European games on the Free Sports channel, which is the junior channel of the network. So again, a new broadcaster or a younger broadcaster has got a media rights deal with a major league. Major League Baseball, as far as I'm aware, doesn't necessarily have a long-term media agreement with a broadcaster, although BT Sport had bought out ESPN here in the UK, and ESPN is one of the carriers of Major League Baseball over in the US and Canada. So BT Sport could be the carrier going forward, but BT Sport is a struggling network right now. It's not as well established as Sky. It's not as accessible or as affordable as Premier Sports, and Free Sports, being part of that network, is completely free and available to all. And the BBC, Channel 4, Channel 5, those free-to-air networks have for a very long time shown the NFL, especially Channel 4 and BBC. They've for a long time shown the NFL games, be it highlights package, Super Bowl, and the London series. So on the media rights side of things, yes, getting the BBC involved is a plus point, but the fact that it was only on website only, if you wanted to watch it on the BBC, is a bit of a negative. Online viewing, it can be patchy at times. Internet connection can go, and if you want to stream a game live and the connection fails, you're going to be left frustrated. BT Sport, as I said, is subscription only, and a lot of people in this country aren't very happy with paying a monthly fee for TV. It's a different kind of culture here in Europe. A lot of sport is free to air, unlike America, where a lot of it's on the networks, which are subscription or pay per view, and therefore they've got to get it right for the culture as well. It's not just to make money, they also have to get it right to get the viewership there in order to grow the fan base. And BT Sport is a struggling network that's got a lot of criticism aimed at it, and rightly so. Was BT Sport being chosen as a carrier for the media rights for the live games a good choice? We'll wait and see what the viewership figures were like, but if you're trying to grow, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, Channel 5 is possibly the way to go. The NFL has tapped into that with using initially Channel 5 to show live games, then Channel 4 and BBC to show the London series, and they've met with great success and great viewership. So there's something to learn from the other rival leagues here. The lack of news coverage as well, that's a concern. That the 24-hour news, the news coverage in the newspapers and on websites, it didn't get the news coverage it should have for such a historical event. And that could be down to the fact of other things, and we'll talk about what it clashes with this year. Now, scheduling has been criticised as well because of the Women's Football World Cup, because of the Cricket World Cup as well. They initially wanted to use a different stadium. We'll come to that later on. So the lack of news coverage, it is clashing with other major sporting events that the British sporting public or the European fan base will be interested in right now. The scheduling, the time of that it took place in June, it was later in June. Had it been earlier, it might not have clashed with some of these other sport events. The app geo block as well. The blackout, kind of the geo block blackout. That's a big thing that has plagued the major sports networks in the US and Canada, is blackout. Media blackout. If you have the Major League Baseball app in the UK, you were blacked out from updates for the score, way to watch highlights. You were blacked out. That's something they need to correct going forward for next year, is the geo block, because that has left a lot of people frustrated when it's unavailable to view in your location. There are fans here. The fact the stadium was 70% filled by British fans 70% of tickets went to British households. So, of tickets sold, that is a good, healthy proportion. That's a positive. I should have got that on the board, really, but we'll talk about ticket prices, which are another big talking point as a start off. The marketing advertising, again, linking with the lack of news coverage, there was a lack of ads on TV and online promoting this series, because if you can, have it advertised, it wasn't advertised very well. It wasn't clearly advertised very well on the BBC website. It wasn't well advertised on other networks saying, buy BT Sports package, watch it on BT Sport. It wasn't well advertised. There was not a lot of advertising. Other sporting events have better advertising and better marketing. The use of Jimmy Carr for the online Twitter and YouTube ads has met really negatively. Jimmy Carr is a very controversial comedian in this country, and it went down very poorly on social media. From what I was reading on social media, the use of Jimmy Carr more often than not met with negative feedback. If you're going to use a celebrity or someone of high profile, I don't think Jimmy Carr is the best bet to market your product. Personally, that met with a lot of negativity from not just baseball fans, but the wider casual sporting fan base as well. It didn't go down well. It was also a sponsored Twitter ad as well. It was a sponsored post by the Major League Baseball London series. It didn't go down well. Lots of negativity. People very turned off by Jimmy Carr. They were less likely to want to, stream it on the BBC Sport website or, pay to unlock BBC Sport for the weekend. They were really put off by the use of Jimmy Carr. So the marketing, they need to have a different face of a different British celebrity who's less controversial, because Jimmy Carr, not a very popular guy in this country at the moment. Ticket prices is where I think most of the criticism came. The TV media rights, I think they will get sorted out. I think partly, the lack of news coverage, it did clash with some of the big sporting events, but the ticket price met with a lot of criticism as well. The cheapest ticket prices at £65 or $82 were pretty good. They were the ones that sold out the quickest. Were the cheaper seats. That is comparable to your average price in a Major League Baseball venue. That's okay. That is a good positive. £65. For a game in London of any major sporting event, that's actually pretty reasonable. I've been to Twickenham to watch rugby union before, and it has proven at times a bit pricey. I've been to football matches, or if you are American, soccer matches in London. Again, they can prove a bit expensive, especially for the top flight games. £65, not bad. So if you equivalent that to the current exchange rate on the days that these games were played over the weekend, $82 is not a bad return. Both matches sold out. That's a positive, but here's the negative. The top end prices are between £300 and £400 for a ticket. That's equivalent to $379 to $506. That is double what you would pay for a Yankees Red Sox game at Fenway or Yankee Stadium in the US at a top end ticket price for average. That met with a lot of criticism. The upper ticket price needs to be lowered because coming in at such a high price will turn people off for going next year, even if they are regular fans or casual fans. And the article I read on the New York Post, they interviewed a hardcore Major League Baseball fan from the UK, and he was put off by the ticket price at the top end, even though he's been to Fenway Park and Yankee Stadium, put off by the upper end ticket price, and that is something that they need to get right going forward. As the series grows and more people want to buy in, absolutely the ticket price you pay for the product. But this is the first ever attempt at Major League Baseball having a game in Europe. That put a lot of people off. That put a lot of people wanting interest in possibly buying tickets off, and that's why the cheap tickets sold out so quickly. Is people were trying to avoid the top end expensive tickets. For some people, that's a week's wages on the lower end incomes. So if you want to attract fans, that's a lot of money. That's a fair chunk of money out of a monthly wage. Big debate about ticket pricing across sport and media rights across sport. That is a negative. The scheduling. The 2020 matches will be played earlier at the beginning of June, and that actually helps with the scheduling. That may actually help with the TV and website and internet audience. That may actually help with getting the media rights sorted and the right. Should the BBC host a game and BT Sports? Should they share the TV rights? 2020, yeah, they've already worked that one out. It doesn't clash with as many sporting events, but there are other sporting events next year. So this year it clashed with Wimbledon because the build-up tournaments to Wimbledon, and people wanting to, if people in London, if they want to spend money on a sporting event, they're going to want to go to Wimbledon. It's a bit more, again, cheaper tickets. So if they're saving up for a sporting event for a day out, they've chosen Wimbledon this year. Women's Football World Cup, that's met with some, mixed reviews, but that has been shown on the BBC in full. The BBC have really, bought into that. And a lot of people, massive TV audience of over 7 million people, I think at peak, have been watching the Women's World Cup in this country. That's a big TV audience that Major League Baseball has lost out on. And the Cricket World Cup. Now, the Cricket World Cup being on Sky, okay, there's some criticism of that, but a lot of people have, got Lords and the Oval in London, and a lot of people have gone there, hence why the venue has been so controversial as well. But next year, they're going to play it earlier in June. The issue with next year is Euro 2020. Euro 2020 is taking place next June, so it'll be interesting to see, how many of the tickets go sold, because a lot of Euro 2020 games are being played here in the UK. So how many tickets get sold for this in 2020? Also, the TV viewership as well. If Euro 2020, if England have similar success this coming season in Euro 2020 as they did last year World Cup, the men's team, could people still not buy in? So they've got to be interesting about the scheduling when it comes to next year. The venue, the big criticism about the venue this time round is, firstly, the venue has been a hot potato politically in this country since the Olympics. £4 million of taxpayer money has been spent preparing the stadium for the matches. That's something that hasn't been talked about a lot. That is a criticism, is out of the public taxpayer money paying for Major League Baseball to come here. Major League Baseball, I think, should have possibly paid the full amount of money to prepare the stadium. They have paid a lot of the money, but still $4 million out of the taxpayer pocket has gone into preparing this stadium. That hasn't gone down well either, for those who have picked that up. So this is where it can improve. The media rights, that will get better as time goes on, I have no doubt. But the lack of news coverage, because it is clashing with other major sporting events that are more followed sports in this country. I think waiting this long to get the foot in the door in the European market has been a mistake by Major League Baseball. I think Major League Baseball should have come here earlier, because the other three major leagues have been here more regularly and in Europe and in the European market for such a long time that they are playing catch up. And that's where the media rights comes in. That's where the advertising comes in. The ticket price, I think that was a mistake to have the upper end so high. The scheduling, they could have possibly played it a little bit earlier in June to avoid some of the clashes with the Cricket World Cup and with the Women's World Cup for TV audience and fans, because a lot of fans have been going over to Europe. Wimbledon, if you are a local to the southeast or London, you're going to want to spend your money on Wimbledon for a 2-week experience rather than try and get limited tickets for a stadium which on the cheaper end sold out pretty quick. But there we go. That's where Major League Baseball can improve going forward. The media rights, the scheduling, and the advertising are the main areas. Ticket price, the cheaper tickets they got right, the upper end they got wrong. And if Major League Baseball wants to grow the game, they need to look at the price that the fans have to pay. But there we go. Thank you very much for watching. Please like and subscribe. Place your comments below, and I'll have some more videos for you very, very soon.